All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. How's everybody doing? Hey, we've reached 2026. I haven't seen everybody since last year.
Shut up.
Everybody makes that joke. I didn't do that joke yesterday. I have to do it joke once.
I actually have seen you since this year.
Okay, fine. You have. Technically. Whatever. My joke doesn't land. It was terrible. I know that. You guys know that. It's fine. This is the first show of 2026. We've reached a new year. We'll see. There's some interesting things that we know is on the horizon in the tabletop world this year. So we'll just see how it all goes. And got some interesting topics to dive into. I'm fortunately joined by Worm and Momo today. We got the full suite of our normal crew today, so hey. So unless there's anything we want to say, why don't we just dive into the news at very least and get started with that? Because I left things top screen because we were chatting about some interesting stuff there for a moment, but nothing tabletop related. All right, cool. First topic that I found that was interesting to talk to is, hey, turns out Daggerheart was really successful.
Yay.
It turns out they had a plan for how much material they would need for the entire year. It sold out in 2 weeks.
That does not surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either, but it surprises me that they didn't read the room enough to get that. It's like one of those things.
It's really hard to get because you don't. It's better to genuinely under order than over order.
I can see that though too.
Because if you over order, you're stuck with product you're on shipping, and that's wasted money.
Yep.
It was the thing though that it felt like when you say we sold out a year's worth in 2 weeks, that sounds like they dramatically under ordered. But again, I guess maybe from their estimations that was the minimum. I can only guess for their estimations.
They probably truly didn't think it would be that popular.
Here's the thing, traditionally, if you're not D&D, you're not going to sell that much.
Yeah.
The thing is that it has shifted so much to where supposedly about, oh gosh, I saw the numbers recently. I want to say it's D&D sales have dropped, I want to say by 80%.
Makes sense.
Over the past year or past few years. And that stuff doesn't just disappear, it goes elsewhere.
Yeah. And
so
again, it's one of those things is even with everything that's been happening with D&D and the ups and downs of it, I do feel more and more I see that the TTRPG sphere has at very least grown with the combine of how the online sphere is. It is a much more normal thing. So is there infinite growth in players? Probably not. But I don't feel I don't feel like the player base is shrinking at all. I feel like it's still expanding.
It's it's going to obviously sales are always going to go down for D&D because people bought the 3 books you need to play with, and then there's going to be people who don't buy the other books, obviously.
No, see that's the thing. D&D actually sold very consistently, even without yes, there's going to be a big bump, but that shouldn't make a big difference overall, especially since a lot of people wait. I know someone who waited till this year because they wanted to wait till they had money and stuff. That kind of stuff happens a lot. So yeah, there'd be a big push in the beginning, but they still sold their books and stuff consistently. But right now, they're not even making close to the same number of sales that they did, pre-2020.
I think it's that one thing that we were talking about, how they were impressing upon the 2024 sales. And there was the 2 factors that we talked about that made the, honestly, success of 2024 less seeming successful. The one, it's been 10 years, D&D and TTRPGs are more popular than ever. Boom! You're going to sell a lot better on your first, little bit than a lot of the things. It took growth for 2014, for 5e, to get to the point in time where it was as popular. And the other one was, it does seem like they combined all their sales across all their different things, and claimed it was their physical medium. Well, they didn't actually claim it. They presented it in the case that interpretation would be towards that, you know.
Oh yeah, they said they've sold like, millions of D&D products is what they called it, I think, rather than D&D books.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they were subtle about it. So
yeah,
which
means they were counting like all of their digital and other and book sales separately, etc. It's Anyway, but yeah, when you actually like look at their numbers, because I saw someone break that down at one this week, they really did drop a lot.
It's this weird thing that not that I lend any credence to it, but I did hear some people here and there talking about how and this is like whisper down the lane, there were rumors of like, somewhere deep within Wizards they're working on an actual 2020 or actual 6th edition, and I'm like, they had their opportunity for that. It felt like they were. Maybe if things are worse than we think, there's someone there looking at it again. But that's something that if they're working on, it's still years down the lane.
I mean, I'm pretty confident by 2030 we'll probably have an announcement for 6th edition.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that if they start working on it now, it would make sense.
Yeah, like there's a whole, again, as part of the video I saw, they brought up how like D&D, fired a bunch of people at the end of like, 2023, but then didn't move the deadline for 2024 release. So it's all like, obviously this book is going to suffer, in quality if you don't change anything for your changing, climate.
It speaks to it, the fact that like the article I provided here, it states how like the people at like Guaranteed Press are like, hey, yeah, we got Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, we're doing great. They're working on stuff for Daggerheart. If we want to put out some D&D material, they're working on that for that. They're working on a bunch of stuff for us. We're sitting pretty. And it just goes to show the tone deafness of Wizards in a lot of ways, because like 2 of the great big names they had are now working at Guaranteed Press.
Well, yeah. And
probably under better management.
I've been watching a lot of random D&D adjacent videos lately. So D&D Shorts did a whole thing I saw. This was like about closer to a year. Well, not like a whole year ago, but a while ago. Where he went over basically like he talked about how terrible the workers are at D&D right now. It's all like by looking at like a bunch of stuff that like some interviews and Glassdoor and that kind of stuff. Nobody working there is enjoying their time there right now. Like there's also a whole thing where literally people are being paid less at D&D now than they were like in 2020. Or sorry, not 2020. 2000 in like mid 2000s. Like literally their pay went down.
Well, it's the thing is,
from
when
years ago. When
you get rid of a whole bunch of people, you can hire people for less. And they kind of did that a lot.
Yeah, but it was literally let's see, it went from like what was it? Writers, like freelance writers being paid from 25 cents a word in 2000 in the 2000s to now it's 10 cents a word.
Yeah, that's a lot less.
Right?
Yeah. Like if it had stayed the same, at least it would have been something. But if it's like, that's a lot less for freelance writers.
Yeah. So that's just like one example.
I again, like,
I remembered.
I don't know. I'm glad for Daring Press's success, but it's kind of that one thing of like, part of me would like to say, maybe this will drive better things for Wizards, but I don't think it's Wizards that's the cause of a lot of this. In the end, it's Hasbro.
It is, and the way Hasbro has been treating Wizards, and the way Wizards itself has become through the push of Hasbro. I mean, when they became kind of the cash cow, they started putting a lot of attention on it and corporatizing it in a way that's really bad. And actually, that's the one thing about all the like reviews and interviews and stuff that D&D Shorts looked at. It was basically like they were all like, this place kind of is the coworkers are nice. The bosses are atrocious. It's basically every single one.
It's that thing of like, I think we wouldn't be so bad if Hasbro was better managed itself, because we can kind of see that when things screwed up for them and their company basically has taken like this nosedive in a lot of ways as the overall company, they've been reliant on things like Wizards for especially Magic, or I mean there's some other things like I think the Monopoly Go actually is successful.
Monopoly will always make money.
But I know it's the mobile app. I don't know how Monopoly Go is successful.
Because mobile games are relatively easy money.
I guess so.
Yeah, and actually, if we're gonna talk about Magic, I can tell you that like, while D&D profits were down, Magic profits are going up. So they're not gonna learn any lessons from that.
No.
In their time with their Magic.
Well, again, like they are not going to learn the right lessons from all the success they've been having, and they're going the wrong direction with that success.
I actually think they will learn a lesson, because as soon as the next Universes Beyond set comes out and it does not sell as much as Final Fantasy, and then the next one doesn't sell as much as Final Fantasy, shareholders are going to be like, hey, why isn't this making us money?
Yeah, I think their Magic bubble is going to pop at some point. Coming up.
I think in a year or two we'll see probably a more of a return to a not like 10 sets a year.
Yeah. What that'll be, I don't know, because like it's the kind of thing of like Final Fantasy was lightning in a bottle. Spider-Man was still successful because of scalpers. Avatar was okay, but I don't think
Avatar's been doing fine, I think.
I don't think it's been like super successful, but I think it's been fine. But also it wasn't suffering from scalpers as much.
Yeah.
And so then that's why, like, when I look at, I'm sorry, Ninja Turtles and Marvel, I don't think they're going to do well either.
I think Marvel will do fine. Ninja Turtles, I think, will sell pretty not great. Marvel will do fine because it's coinciding with an MCU release, more or less.
That's true. They got the big MCU release this
year. They got Doomsday coming out this year, so
there's
going to be a lot of
drive sales. That might
if there is hype left for Marvel, it'll drive sales. I do think people still like the MCU.
I like Marvel
as much as I don't.
It's not hyped for it anymore.
Admittedly, I'm more of a DC person. I always have been. If they would do some DC stuff for Magic, I would be the market for that, but I don't think they ever will.
Yeah, I think none of the Universes Beyond this year are going to be great. But also,
I think Star Trek might do okay. There's a lot of nerdery crossover with Star Trek.
There was a statement I heard this week from one of the videos that Learning College put out that was the perfect one to encapsulate Universes Beyond, that I think is the best way to think about this, that I didn't even think about too. When you're working on a Magic set, you kind of have free reign to design stuff. When you're working on Universes Beyond, you have to work off of someone else's work. So it limits creativity. If I'm making a Venom card, it still has to be Venom. It has to be recognizable as that. It means that the creative space within Magic is kind of stagnating that way with a lot of Universes Beyond, which is a interesting thought pattern for a lot of how this kind of suffers for it too. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that as being a negative of the entire.
I still think the most successful in terms of like creative Universes Beyond product was Warhammer. Because they actually probably got a lot of free reign to make those cards, because those cards feel very genuine. Versus some of the Final Fantasy cards very much feel like, here Final Fantasy character, here what he do.
I think that's why, like, I think things like a lot of like the D&D set. Well, granted, that still is technically Universes Beyond, but it's the Wizards.
Lord of the Rings set is I think a good example of very creative as well.
Yeah, like you still have a couple of characters you can't do a lot with. There's a lot of that kind of side content and stuff around them you can kind of work around and be creative with, I think. And I think that's where, like, there are open-ended IPs that work better, but there's other ones that it's a lot harder to work with,
Like, I'm going to pull one of my favorite cards from the 40K Universes Beyond stuff. Karn the Betrayer. He's a big guy with a big axe. He's angry all the time. That's a pretty basic character. Fun fact: he betrays people.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker.
Makes sense.
It's in the name. His card is actually really, really fun and unique. He attacks or blocks each combat if he's able to. Makes sense for the character. Very basic. And then and then he has the ability, the Betrayer. If damage would be dealt to Karn, prevent that damage, and an opponent of your choice gains control of it. That's a really creative card design.
Yeah, and I think that's where like it's that kind of thing that we kind of talk about with Universes Beyond is that it's a hard sword to use because it has to feel like it could fit in Magic. I think to not like truly alienate a lot of Magic players. You know, it's sort of like I'm not gonna lie. A lot of us have been here for years, and I'm pretty sure not a lot of us are like Fortnite players, and we don't want our Fortnite.
No, and like it's like when I see Earth being added, and yes, if we want to be pedantic, there were older sets that were very much based on Earth cultures. Warhammer technically has Earth. It's not called Earth because they call it Terra, so it's different technically. But when I just see, oh, that's New York City, that doesn't really inspire me to want to play that.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, every IP is different for the creative space you can work with it. I think it's sort of like, when you talk about Warhammer, you know Warhammer. When I heard in that same episode, the professor was talking about Doctor Who, how he liked the set, but he also could see and analyze those cards and see that there wasn't a lot of creative space in the Doctor Who sets. They were interesting, but you have to be these episodes, these characters.
You have to be really into Doctor Who to like those cards.
Yeah.
Whereas Warhammer, I think a person who knows nothing about Warhammer can look at that card and be like, I like this card.
I also think that Warhammer being a much larger IP, honestly, helps with that. It's got a huge bubble of like.
It's also effectively still fantasy.
Yeah, but it's got a huge bubble of like lore to it too. Like I think things with bigger bubbles of lore. That's why I think like when I would look at like I like the flavor when it comes to Magic of Avatar, but then I can take a look at it and be say like I also think it probably had problems with the creativity side of things because it's a lot more of an exact IP.
There's also a lot less characters you can really do. Although they squeaked it out in a full set. I don't know the contents of it fully, but I am impressed they squeaked out a full set with it.
Yeah. And I think that's where like it becomes this difficulty that I'm sorry, Standard sucked this year, and a lot of problems were in a lot of formats.
Was really bad.
Standard was the worst, but a lot of formats were suffering this year because they put out goddamn 6 sets, and they're putting out 7 sets. I don't think the people that like would test these things are going to have time. You know,
no, absolutely not.
So
this release schedule feels like we saw Commander as popular, so we want to give more cards for the Commander pool.
Now, I do want to.
That's what it felt like to me. So.
I do want to link this back to D&D because we did start with Daggerheart into D&D into Magic here, which there's a lot of
inevitable.
There's a lot of relationship here. I think that's why we will see some set releases this time. I don't think that there will be as much success in D&D because we've got the new guard, which is getting their thing down. But I'm just kind of want to watch them in a way because I'm interested in what that matters. Because I'm sorry,
it's definitely an industry shakeup going on at the moment.
Yeah, because Magic's on a cusp. D&D has hit that cusp. What is this going to mean for Wizards? What is this going to mean for a lot of things? Because I feel like, as much as there's a lot of insanity in other TTRPGs, not TTRPGs, CCGs, TCGs, I feel like most of them have a stability that Magic doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, Pokemon, you got problems with scalpers out the ass. You don't release stuff at a huge, massive things. Usually you just stick with one product line. Even Yu-Gi-Oh! Feels like it's saner even though like I've heard some people like
I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh.
I've heard a few people talk
Yu-Gi-Oh!
about over the last couple of like weeks, and it's just the thing that like older players will say the new game is completely different.
The only thing I know about Yu-Gi-Oh is sometimes I'll get a short of like a Yu-Gi-Oh player looking at a broken Magic card and being like, "Well, that's not broken." I'm just like, "Man, we're playing two very different games."
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yu-Gi-Oh probably should ban more.
That's what that's what I've gotten from an understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh. They need to start banning cards.
They really do.
It was this rabbit hole of someone that I occasionally watch who does some tabletop stuff. Mostly like gaming and tabletop streams. They started doing a couple of like what I like to call actually decent reactions, because they get like when you see like a video that's 15 minutes and it's a 30-minute video, they're spending times talking and discussing it. Anyway, they started watching like a thing on the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And talking about it and discussing it, and it was a very interesting thing of like, wow, the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is insane, and also then kind of makes you want to go watch the other person's original series on it too, but which is always good. Their thumbs up. I'm not a reactor and don't like a lot of that content, but sometimes people do it okay. If you add your own thing into it.
But yeah, when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, like
that was interesting hearing.
I haven't looked into banning recently, but I was into it long enough to kind of know it's like they really only ban cards if a single card is broken.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting
thing. Not if
a
combo is broken.
Yeah, Magic is very combo-based bans.
Yeah.
Also, it was interesting to see like the discussion for early Yu-Gi-Oh! How it's become special summons. Because the entire idea is like you want to on turn 1 set up the combo of your deck and play like at least a quarter of your deck to a half of it, in order to set up the battle. It's like what the fuck?
Because basically now, I mean, so summons have always been more powerful, but there's always been a restriction to normal summons of like you have to sacrifice to get better ones. The thing is that the ways around that tend to be these special summons. Yeah. Like pendulum summons and even fusion summons were the thing back in the day, but and those were always more powerful in part because like there were often ways around it. In fact, some of them used very low power cards to fuse into something really good. And as a result in that, they've always been there's always been really good builds based around that, but it's only gotten worse as they've introduced new summoning types and stuff. I really need to dive into Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Like, I know generally about stuff, but I need to actually dig into it again and like really figure some of this stuff out. It's interesting,
and it's one of those things that's sort of like sometimes when you like get introduced to like a series of videos or kind of things, you're like, that'd be interesting to look into, because like as much as I like talking about CCG history, there's certain games I will not touch with a 10-foot pole, aka Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and a lot of those ones that are still going on and have been still going on a lot today because they have such a deep history. I talk about Magic enough on my channel, let alone diving into one of those really big games other than that one.
Yeah. I mean, I have about 16 years of catching up to do if I want to figure out what's going on.
When I think of Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm always reminded of a web comic I saw where it was just two people playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and then one guy goes first and its turn takes a while, and the guy says, "Oh, it's my turn, can I finally play now?" And then the next one was, "I'm sorry, you lost already."
Yep. Yeah.
Modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Despite the fact that there is the restriction in the game that if you go first, you can't attack, but there are plenty of other ways to kill people in that game. Or or lose life points or whatever. Yeah. But I wanted to say one thing back to D&D a bit. I watched someone review the released classes for the released subclasses for the Dark Sun thing.
Oh, okay.
And they brought up a very good point, and that is the gladiator. They're not going to handle it well.
Oh, the gladiator.
Because of the gladiator and the flavor text for it, and how it's like they made it like a glorious thing, but in Dark Sun, gladiators are slaves and forced into it, and it's a horrible thing. Like, it's not like, American Gladiator. It's traditional gladiator stuff.
I think they want to do it because there was a mix in Rome. There were the slave gladiators, but there were also more of the character the performer gladiators too.
Mhm.
And I think they want to
Yes.
focus on that aspect of it, which
But in Daggerheart, that doesn't happen. That's not a part of Daggerheart traditionally.
are you saying Dark Sun traditionally? You said
Or Dark
Daggerheart.
Sun. Why did I say? Yeah,
I
sorry.
think-
I'm looking
I
at
think with-
Daggerheart, so my
I
brain's
think
in
with
the wrong
Dark Sun, it'll be largely fine, but it'll just be a little bit more of a sanitized version.
Basically, that was what the person said. It's like, yeah, given
is
this, it's probably going to be a
fine.
nothing book. It's going to be fine.
It's going to be Spelljammer again, which was a sanitized version of old Spelljammer. It's going to be the sanitized version of Ravenloft we got, right?
But we learned
Well,
that
Ravenloft wasn't. Ravenloft was a lot less sanitized. That was early on when they were still doing pretty good.
So no. I'm gonna say this here. For one thing, Spelljammer technically it wasn't sanitized. It was made worse. We remember the mistakes
That's
they
true.
made. They
Actually, yeah,
did-
that's the problem. It wasn't sanitized.
They unsanitized.
They
it.
unsanitized it, which was a problem because I don't think there was a lot of weird
I was
issues.
thinking of Planescape. Sorry, that's
yeah,
the one that
Planescape
kinda
got sanitized. Planescape, Spelljammer, they just looked at it and were like, "This is too weird. We're just gonna throw it out and just make something else." That's what
Yeah.
they did.
Spelljammer should have never saw the shelves of stores.
Ravenloft. I'm gonna say it's technically sanitized, but in weird ways.
Mhm.
Because there are so many times where, because I like talking about the Dark Lords of Ravenloft. I have a series of videos on my channel about them.
Oh, yeah, you've talked about this.
And it's so weird the changes they make sometimes. I don't understand half of them.
Yeah, the extended part of Ravenloft was weird, but I felt like it
Yeah.
wasn't sanitized so much. It was just made. They mixed things up to
They wanted
make things less. They yeah.
There are times when they like connect things to old lore when I'm like, why did you do that? You could just made your own thing. And there are other times when they actually connect to old lore but change things in weird ways which doesn't make any sense. It's sort of it's someone on the creative team was like just took like a lot of darts and threw them on a board. I feel sometimes.
I'm gonna say my biggest D&D hot take
Ooh.
for 5e. Stop using existing settings.
I
You're
agree.
fumbling it so hard. Make a new one from scratch.
I think the only one that
Just start over.
I think the only one that hasn't been fumbled is Eberron, because the original Eberron guy's been working
Yeah,
on
because
that one.
well, hey, yeah, I mean, the new Eberron book came out. Apparently, it's quite good.
Yeah, but they have the old Eberron guy working on that one, so
Exactly.
it's like, just get back working more on my stuff. You know?
Yep, and that's kind of the whole thing. That this guy basically, actually, I think it was D&D Shorts again. Basically was like, yeah, the issue is that like they're a company, they need to be safe, but true art takes risks.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're not doing anything creative right now.
Yeah. It's just make a new setting so you can do what you want with it instead of changing older settings.
I think that is a better idea.
Back in the day when because even 10 years ago, like when it was early the 2014 version, like they were taking risks and it was interesting.
I think also like there are settings that they don't have to do a lot with that can work with their more laid back kind of things. I think Forgotten Realms works fine in the kind of attitude they have. There isn't a lot of crazy shit in Forgotten Realms that really needs to be there. I think in general, Greyhawk is the same. It's not that there aren't in both of these settings. It's not there aren't crazy stuff. It's that there's a lot of like normal fantasy stuff on the side that you can focus on. I gotta be honest. I don't know if they would. I don't think they ever did. Did they ever put out the Dragonlance stuff? I think Dragonlance has. For my knowledge,
they put out the Fizbin book, and then I think they put out an adventure, and I think that was it.
I think that's a setting that I also, because granted it's a different type of gameplay, but I think the setting itself doesn't have
very like. It's not. It's a very non-offensive fantasy setting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like those three there work fine. You can just focus on them.
Well, the like the Kinder or the Kind. I think they're called the Kinder. Those are a little not cool.
Actually, they have literally sanitized it for 2024.
Yeah,
which is they literally took the Kender and were like, yeah. So they don't have they got rid of their lack of understanding of property, basically.
Which, quite frankly, I'm fine with.
it was one of those things
for playing for the purpose of play. Yes,
Exactly.
For the
I'm quite frankly, I'm fine with that.
Here's the thing I'm going to say that's really going to be an interesting thing. The original origin of Dragonborn, at the very least as a 4th edition, they hadn't sanitized it. Because Dragonborn come from Dark Sun. They kept the horrific backstory in 4th edition. They didn't go into it much, that they were an experiment of a Draco Lich, basically. But a lot of the ones, because in 2nd edition, they do say a bunch of them got away from him and start integrating into other places in the world. So, yeah, those are the Dragonborn you play if you're playing 4th edition ones. You're the descendants of these ones that got away from your horrible experiment, master, that were like, hey...
No, now they just kind of got thrown onto Toril after the spell plague.
Yeah.
But
again, they addressed it in a very, fine way, that they're like, yeah, they he's experimenting over there, creating some horrible things. These guys, got loose, got free. They're living their own now, which is kind of what happened to them in 2nd edition even then too. It was like, it does mention 2nd edition, some of them got loose. That's why you can find them outside of there. It's just he's still doing his horrible things down there in his horrible underground.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that 4th edition was supposed to be set in the future, like the far future. And then suddenly they get put back in the normal version because they were too popular.
Forgotten Realms stuff of 4th edition is just weird. I'm sorry. The amount of of Forgotten Realms storylines, just... All I ever say is don't keep pressing the reset button. You've pressed it way too many times. Once or twice, okay. We're on 5 resets now.
I think this is the 4th reset.
That's still too many. Again, once or twice, you can probably get away with it. After the 3rd or 4th time, it's becoming a problem to keep resetting it. Hitting that button. Anyway. But yeah, back to the original topic. Very compressed Daggerheart, doing well. Hopefully becoming cool books.
Love to see it.
Now, we do have to talk about D&D if we've been talking about D&D.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, so Tim Kask, who is the actual first full-time employee at TSR, has passed away. So, again, this is someone you might not know particularly, but he was the editor at the company, and he was there for a good number of years. If you think about the way that D&D is, and a lot of it was published, especially in early TSR days, Tim probably had his hand in a lot of that there. A lot of again, being a editor at the company means you got your hand in a lot of making sure the books come out the way you present them. So yeah. So he is also, which I didn't know about until I saw this article, the apparatus of Qualish, because one of his characters was Qualish. It's named after him. That's cool.
So is the Sword of Cass.
Yeah. I can see the Sword of Cass being named after him because Tim Kask.
It is.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So I've definitely seen this guy before, somewhere else before. It's
very tragic.
And I knew, and I've heard the name Tim Kask, so yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, sucks.
Yeah. So again, it's a tragic thing. It's a person that's a classic person that worked on a lot of the early stuff. There's probably a lot more history in there that I'm not diving into because I'm not expert at the history of the man. But it is another piece of the overall history of D&D that's unfortunately passed away. So R.I.P. Tim. Hopefully, it sounds like he passed peacefully. 76. Yeah. And heart goes out to the family, and hopefully they're all doing okay in this mourning period. So this is a weird news story related to D&D that I had to say because it was weird. A football team played D&D.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Sick. Cool marketing, I guess.
I know. The Kansas City Chiefs has an hour-long D&D actual play video they came out with. And I'm like, when does the NFL kind of mesh with D&D? I'm sure there are D&D fans that are NFL fans. I'm not saying that. you know, that there aren't there. But that's probably a lot more of a niche group, you know?
Actually, I've seen a lot more. Like, I've heard a lot more about jocks getting into D&D. Apparently, it's like a jock thing now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I also want to point out, like, sports teams have done this a lot with just nerd culture in general. In the 90s, the Spurs had a StarCraft team.
Some of these things I've missed. That's like, you say that, and I'm like, I missed that somehow. The Spurs have a StarCraft team.
There's also,
Whoa.
I mean, it's also kind of a promotional thing, like, even for sports, to try and reach out and get, like, other people interested in them. This is something you can do. You know, there's a lot of reasons for it. Like,
okay,
yeah, it's not. Yeah. To be fair, I kind of want to watch this, so I'll probably.
A lot of the sports people at my school also were the people in the nerd club.
Huh.
Yeah. No, you'd be surprised how much the jock and D&D culture mesh. Like, yes, it's like because that's the thing. D&D at this point is no longer seen as a nerd thing.
I guess it's that
like, they got a really good movie, man. I mean, it's very mainstream culture now.
I guess it's also that entire thing of like me understanding the connections between the culture and like the nerd culture and the jock culture of TTRPGs is definitely like honestly a couple decades out of, you know, like knowledge at this point in time, because like I'm not necessarily for or against sports. I'm just never really interested in most of them, you know. So sort of like
I've
never heard about this except saw the sword.
I think the Browns also did something like this for what's the sport magazine called? It's the main sport magazine.
It does say in
Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, it does say in the bottom of this article that the Cleveland Browns had a D&D game going for several years apparently.
Yeah.
And also, apparently one of the co-founders of Demiplane was a former Dallas Cowboys player.
Yeah.
I know that one. That's interesting. Okay.
People are big nerds.
Yeah.
And
that's
I like legitimately I have found a majority of people are nerds.
I mean everyone see, the way I think about it, everyone nerds out about something.
Everyone's got a dorky thing they like
about football. Like
I know so many people who do.
Well, it's that thing of like I understood like we had the crossover with nerds through the fantasy football people and people that like the stats and stuff like that, and we still had some people that like also liked the games and stuff too, especially because of family and stuff like there. So we had that kind of thing. But I also think this kind of saw like maybe the media side of nerd culture becoming the first thing, and then maybe getting into some things like some of the collectible card games. I hadn't realized we had then, because this is the whisper down the line, I hadn't realized we had hit the TTRPG level yet. You know, it was sort of like video games, you know, comic books / you know, superheroes / you know, the sci-fi stuff, then, you know, like simple board games, card games, and then TTRPGs. I understand it is there's probably a level beyond that I'm not aware of, because
actually,
like, you know,
that's another big crossover is card games and like sports cards actually create a bit of an odd bridge.
I think I think you are completely valid in like not really knowing, but I do think it definitely became more of like a public perception of like everyone's into something a little bit nerdy when Henry Cavill was like, yes, I built a very expensive PC and I play with plastic toys.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I figured out what the level beyond TTRPGs is. Warhammer.
Oh yeah, that's like that's like the end game. Everything will lead you to Warhammer eventually.
I feel like it's Warhammer, then other war games.
Yeah, all IPs lead to Warhammer.
But then, as soon as you mentioned it, I'm like, that's what goes above and beyond where TTRPGs are. Warhammer.
Yeah, ultimately though, like that's the thing. I'm subscribed to someone on YouTube who's literally like just a jock talking about like you know, D&D stuff, kind of like some other channels and stuff. But it's always funny to me how he's just all like, like you know, D&D shorts is always talking about like wizards and how good they are, and then this guy's over here being like, fighters are the best class because you can hit stuff and do lots of damage.
One of the
and I'm
podcasts I listened to for 40K Lore Crimes, they did an episode that was like 3.5 hours long on the Necrons. The guy who wrote the script for that and presented the episode is a gym rat.
Well,
I wish I could say who that was, but I don't.
I do like how, like, you know, I think that's the other thing too, is like there is a disconnect, I think, in my brain too, between like the quotations gym bro and, you know, sports team kind of dive into that, because the people that go to the gym, there's different types of those, and you can always kind of see those. There's definitely the more like, you know, bro fist kinds. There's just the ones that are like, I really like getting in like perfect shape or something like that.
I want to like live past 70.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would argue there is the difference between like a gym bro and a jock. I feel like jocks are more likely to do D&D than a gym bro.
Mm-hmm.
Most jocks I've met are actually pretty cool people.
No, same.
I haven't met one in like years, so I think that's where I'm on, like, you know, last time I actually met someone I could call a jock probably would have been like college. I don't think I was talking very much with them about stuff, you know.
Yeah, like, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
It's like, hey, are we doing this project? Great. You know,
look, I had my neighborhood friends growing up were jocks, so
like when I was in college, I was in the anime club, and one of the most prominent members was like the dude who was like the football captain. He just liked anime.
I'd always go to
Good.
Oh, I was about to say, and I'd always go over to his house and play, you know, Halo.
Hell yeah,
although,
a real video game.
Yeah, in fact, he even got a football scholarship, or his one of them did. One of the two.
I just remember I learned
making John Halo proud.
There was a person that I would occasionally go over and play some games with, many years ago, back around my early teen years, that they had wrestling games. So I actually know a bunch of like 80s, 90s to early probably 2000s wrestlers because of playing with them when I don't know anything else about wrestling. You know? So
that's fair.
You know, but you're playing the video games, you learn that kind of stuff. But they were a fan of that kind of thing then too, you know? So yeah, I can see the whisper down the line, and I also do remember playing some of the football games where I'm like, just choose this. PlayStation to PlayStation 2 era football games were a thing. I wasn't good at them, but I played them occasionally. I didn't own them, but I played them occasionally. Anyway, yeah, so football and D&D. So if you're interested in checking that out, you probably could. I think it's over on there. There's a link to it here. You might have to play sport too. Anyway. Okay, let's continue onward though. Boop, boop. We're getting a starter set for Old World role-playing.
Yeah, I feel like I need to explain what Old World is. Because there's a lot of confusion between what Old World, what Fantasy, and what Age of Sigmar is.
Yes.
So, Warhammer Fantasy is a game that no longer is made. It was set around the times of what is called the End Times. That's a whole mess. You can go look up countless YouTube videos on that. Age of Sigmar is a completely different world because the original world of fantasy blew up. Everyone died. Old World we're back in the fantasy world, but several hundred years before the End Times. During a period where the Empire of Man was fractured into a big civil war.
Okay.
And chaos is still running rampant.
I thought Old World was just Sigmar, but before.
No, so a lot of people do think that it's basically like, oh, we maybe messed up by blowing up Warhammer Fantasy because there's all these Warhammer Fantasy games that came out when we did that.
Oh my god. It's Old World of Darkness into New World of Darkness before they split into World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness.
Kinda, yeah.
It was the exact same thing where they blew up Old World of Darkness and made New World of Darkness, which would eventually become Chronicles. But then they were like, "Oh, we've kind of split our player base."
Because you would have, because I believe the time when the End Times were like going on in like print, Warhammer Total War had just come out, and so people were like, "Oh, I really like this Warhammer Total War game. It's really cool." Oh, the setting doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. man.
And I assume they're RPG for the old world, which I'm very excited for as someone who's finally getting into Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the little bits I've done, I've honestly paid a lot more attention to Warhammer Fantasy than Warhammer. I like it a lot more. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not
Completely fair.
Yeah.
What I've read
Like,
of Age of Sigmar, I'm liking a lot more than 40k at the moment. So,
like, that's the thing. I like 40k. It's just so. There's just so much.
40k is a lot of stuff, and then a lot of that stuff doesn't matter because everything's a narrative dead end. Because if literally any plot line is resolved, the universe explodes.
Yeah. And so it's all like fantasy, though, is kind of like more. I feel like it's got a lot more of just it's a world rather than a story, which means I can learn about it easier.
Yes, because 40k largely is humans versus chaos, and then anyone else is just like a background character. And then if you're the Eldari, you're dead on the floor, and no one's cared about you for like 6 editions.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you're not wrong, but like
still mad about the Inari, if you can't tell.
It's an interesting thing that, like, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely can feel the difference between like the fantasy Warhammer side and which, you know, that I think I want to learn a little bit more about. I just haven't done as much into that one as much as, you know, learning about some 40k stuff.
One of the big things that has drawn me to fantasy is the simple fact that in Warhammer Fantasy, when an elf dies, they aren't immediately dragged to hell to be eaten. Elves have it a little better in Warhammer Fantasy, and that's why I'm like, I like elves. Maybe I'll go over here.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I think it's they don't treat anything very well in 40k.
No, again, 40k is like everyone's suffering at all times.
Talking about it just for a second, I was talking about it in the pre-show. I saw the Adeptus Ridiculous do the review of the War of the Beast series.
What a book series.
When in the 4th episode, they realized how bad these books were because in order to write orcs as a threat, they made them just another Imperium of Man briefly.
Yes.
It was just so like realization of this is so like stupid.
The Prime Orcs?
Prime Orcs. It was like they just wrote something so stupid. It was impressive.
I'm glad I've never read that book series, because that book series alone might have maybe never interact with 40k again.
I can see that from hearing people review it then and suffer through it. It's sort of like, and again, this is a book series that's only like a decade and a half.
It's not that old. In terms of lore, it's not that old.
But like, it goes to show you, like, how many times have we seen terrible examples of books in media and in properties that have either been rushed or haven't been checked by anybody, or have just like disjointed authors. These 3 things screw stuff up a lot, you know? Either have someone check on this work, don't rush it so much, or at least have the same author do everything if it's a conjointed story.
For what I've heard, the fantasy and Age of Sigmar books are on average like more consistent.
That's good.
In writing, but I don't know if they have any like standout, this is a 5 out of 5 book like 40k does. But I also don't think they have any, this is the worst material I've ever read in my life books.
They stick around like 3s and 4s, so they don't get those 5s, but they don't have like 1s. Is basically what we're saying.
Yeah. I can only read so many times about a 40k glub shitto who ultimately just dies at the end of his story because Gilliman needed to do something.
Or our main character of Slaughter, who's playing against the Beast.
Our main character of Slaughter, who faces off against a guy named Slaughter, and then he gets slaughtered.
Who insisted to a Primarch, call me by my gamer tag, yo.
Oh my god, dude. I truly feel bad for Salamander's fans. Because they don't get anything nice.
I'm sorry, just hearing about
really
it is
bad,
hilarious, and I'm glad I don't have to read it, but having someone else suffer for my entertainment was wonderful. I'm sorry.
I feel bad for the scriptwriter because he had to go from that to an Ian Watson book.
Oh my god, Ian Watson's book was so bad in comparison. It's like we were at like a 1 out of 10. No, we were like a 1 out of 5 in that book. We went to like a half out of 5 for the Ian Watson book.
Chat. What the point of this is, I'm not really bitter that old fantasy blew up because we got good things out of it, and I wish 40K would explode already so we get a new setting.
It just resets itself. Honestly,
please just reset. I want you just to start over.
Just reset and like actually have
this universe has been ongoing since 1988. I'm pretty sure you gotta stop at some point.
You either have to have that or you actually have to have something happen in the universe. I guess there have been a few, in quotations, events, but none of them have been.
The last major event happened about 10 years ago.
Yeah, because I assume the fall of Cadia
and Cadia was the big one,
and then
Gilliman coming back. Technically, the Lion coming back was pretty big, but it ultimately didn't affect anything because spoilers, they haven't finished that storyline yet.
Yeah.
You've got stuff going on like the Nockman Gap between where Chaos is pounding the Imperium to shreds. That's gone nowhere because spoilers, those books not done yet.
That's kind of what I mean. Is like they have the possibility of making the story go forward in a lot of ways, and you can. Here's the thing that, like, I think they are scared to do. You can have stuff, like, fail or be mostly defeated with it still staying around to a degree, so you can still have miniatures of it. Like, you can have groups mostly die off.
One of the issues with 40K, it's been an issue for a while, is if a character dies in the books, they will put their miniature into Legends, which can't be played. 40K's narrative really needs to be separated from the game because a lot of fantasies is separate from its game.
We're going to be talking about this at the end of today.
Yeah, I've got some complaints about 40K I can go into at the end of the show.
Let's save this entire thing of the going into Legends stuff for Titus. It's going to come back in a little bit here. Let's finish up the other news stories, though.
Yeah.
So, we got some business news. We got 2 little business newses. They're kind of interesting here. The first one is Asmodee. So, again, just long story short, Asmodee bought it by Embracer. Embracer broke apart into a thirds. One of those thirds reformed into Asmodee with, I guess, a little bit of extra because of its time with Embracer.
Yeah.
So, this new company basically had gotten a big stake in the Exploding Kittens smaller brand, and now they've bought out the rest of it. Whether this is a good or bad thing, it's kind of like...
I don't think it's the worst.
Yeah. So apparently they had already managed to get 55% of the company, so they basically had control of the company, but not enough to, I think, like... be basically owners of it, but they basically completed the acquisition this year now, getting the rest of the company. So they officially are now owned by Asmodee and part of it. So Asmodee does have a lot of smaller companies under its wings already.
And
so
I think a lot of them do get to act relatively independent without much poking and prodding. So
yeah, I think it felt like when they joined Embracer, there was a little bit more prodding that happened with a lot of the sub companies. Because I was pretty sure Fantasy Flight was already part of them while they were working on the Star Wars stuff. And when they kind of went into Embracer, that's when things split up a little bit more.
I maintain the opinion that Embracer might be one of the worst things that happened to the gaming space.
Yeah. So now I'm hoping they're a little bit more old Asmodee now, because again, I agree with you. I think they were a little bit more hands off, and like, as long as you keep making us money, we don't really put too much in there, kind of things, as the like umbrella over top of you. And the other one is because this one This is a tangential tabletop one, but I thought it was interesting enough because one of the big places that is a normal store you can get a bunch of tabletop stuff is, well, Barnes & Noble. And honestly,
Yes,
I keep forgetting they're doing good somehow.
Barnes and Nobles is a weird company because they're actually not evil somehow.
But they're also a bookstore.
They're not
also
as
privately
evil
owned.
as like every. Yeah, they're also privately owned, which is a big thing.
Yeah, that
But like they do a lot of actually pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Also, the vibes of a Barnes and Nobles is immaculate when you're in that store.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and you gotta also remember there has been a big return back to physical books.
Because everyone was tired of Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. I guess in more recent years, it has kind of shifted back to the physical level of stuff.
I started buying physical books again.
It's kind of like once Kindle kind of became like the top e-reader thing, everyone started to hate it.
It's
and
like
went back to
I'm thankful Kindle exists.
You know what it is? It's the same thing that drove records to come back. It's that
True.
It's a medium that people see as rather than the standard medium. This is the special medium. This is the cool medium. I collect records. I get physical books. I'm a little cooler that way.
I'm very thankful Kindle exists because otherwise I would have to look at a Warhammer book and be like, oh, I want to read this book. Oh, it's $500.
Yeah. So, LA Investment Management is currently the owner of Barnes and Nobles, because I guess they had some problems back in 2020 area.
Who didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big management chain was reducing homogeneity and giving local store management more control. So actually, that's an interesting thing. Is basically when it sounds like when Elliot took over, they were like, just do the hell what you want with your own stores as long as it works.
Yeah, I mean, Barnes & Noble, it's like one of the better places, barring like a local bookstore, obviously.
Yeah.
A Barnes & Noble is like the best place to get a book if you don't have a local bookstore.
And that sounds like that was actually like a really good maneuver for Elliot on that end of being like, we own you now, but we want you guys at the local level who know what your community wants to taper to your community rather than us demanding it. That's probably not a bad idea.
That's actually pretty. It's actually a pretty good way to make things work.
Yeah. Especially.
In fact, government is supposed to work that way, but it doesn't.
Well, you'd hope.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing that I'm glad, again, it's one of those things is because I haven't been in a physical bookstore in a while. And I just remember my what was the other? It was Barnes and Nobles, and what was the other bookstore? Was it Borders?
Maybe. I think it was. I don't know if they exist anymore.
No, they died. Those both of them. I remember they were not quite local, but they were within basically on my path, of going and visiting Blaze or going to college and stuff like that. Both of them were nearby, and I preferred Borders because they had a small thing in a mall in Montgomeryville.
All right, so Borders does exist. It's owned by Barnes and Noble now.
That explains it.
What's owned by Barnes and Noble? I missed that.
The older bookstore called Borders.
Borders, yeah. Because I remember Borders had bought up a couple other smaller bookstore chains. Because I remember, again, those bookstore chains becoming like Borders or Borders Express or something like that, which was a weird thing. But at the mall in Montgomeryville, because that was on the way to going to Temple, there was Borders Express, and there was also Borders within the area there. But if I remember that place. If you were going food court, you could always go to the place there. I bought a lot of manga at Borders Express. I'm not gonna lie. Back when I was buying physical manga, I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, it was yet another victim of the quote unquote retail apocalypse.
Yeah, when I searched Borders bookstore, it shows me Barnes and Noble's locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad some bookstores still exist, though. But I'm kind of saying with all this.
I feel like physical stores are going to start making a comeback because everyone's kind of tired of Amazon.
Yeah, I definitely.
Also, it's generally a little cheaper to buy in a physical store.
There's a Barnes and Nobles right there.
Well, you're looking at a map of locals and you found one near you.
It's literally within walking distance.
Like
I've never seen it before.
Granted, like I don't go there very much nowadays, but like if I'm gonna go visit Blaze, I could go to a Barnes and Nobles, like either before or after. Technically speaking, if I'm going to a Olive Garden, which I don't very much know because my grandfather passed away and he loved Olive Garden, so that was more excuse. That one was also near the Barnes and Nobles because that's half an hour away.
I remember this now. They opened this one recently. That's why I don't remember it super well.
I have 2. I have like 3 Barnes and Nobles relatively near me.
I wonder if there's any other. I haven't checked if there's any others that are like closer than that one, but that's like the one I know about.
Because I live in one of those like towns that's near a highway that's in the middle of like 3 urban areas.
All right, I'm checking. Now I'm looking at the map of Barnes and Nobles. Okay. That one might be closer, but like it's not too close. It's up where the 309 meets the big highway 78. Okay, so I don't go to that place very much.
I think the big thing for me is this one was they bought this recently and started doing like construction. I didn't realize it was open while it was under construction. I think that's the big thing for me. It's like because it's like they've been building, like they've been rebuilding a mattress store into the Barnes and Nobles, and I just didn't realize it was open yet. I have seen it before, but apparently they're open.
I'm not gonna lie, I am sad that it no longer exists there. But that Barnes and Nobles that I was talking about, it used to have an Applebee's next to it, and I remember so many like late nights where I'm hanging out with Blaze and Joe, and we go to a goddamn Applebee's for half-off appetizers at like 9 at night. Maybe we hit up the bookstore ahead of time, and then went in there. Maybe we picked up like a little card game that we could play while we're eating our appetizers or something like that, But it's like I'm sad that at least one of those are gone. At least the Barnes and Noble's still there. Thumbs up on that one. Anyway, memories. All right. So we got distribution news, which is weird because we still have to talk about Diamond, but not the same Diamond because it's Diamond 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Nice. Fair enough.
So, Diamond 2 was formed out of some of the corpse of Diamond. Why they named it Diamond 2, I don't know, but they did.
I guess maybe just a final fuck you to the owners of Diamond.
I guess so. Now that we know that Diamond is dying with its, bankruptcy changing.
Yeah, no, it's actually going into full liquidation. So
yeah. So this is the company that was formed by Ad Populum. It's the comic and toy assets that was part of comic distribution or Diamond distributors. And they're basically making some big changes to the entire thing too. So that's interesting. Ends the Diamond Daily and the launch of a marketing systems for Diamond Select brands by Ad Popular System Cover and so. See, again, we're talking business speak, and I'm half getting that, so I'm going to try my best here with the entire conversation. I don't know I guess the Diamond Daily was like a newsletter or something, it looks like, that had been at Diamond.
That was probably Diamond's newsletter.
And ended up going to them with the, breakdown and transfer a bunch of stuff.
So that's why Ad Populum kind of wanted Diamond, because they already own Diamond 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
they also are.
That's why they're trying to buy the rest of it.
Yeah, they tried. They wanted to, but they also thought it was. But they also only wanted it because it had like exclusive deals. So they didn't want it because of Diamond, but they wanted it because of its exclusive deals,
which
apparently weren't actually going to happen. Yeah. But apparently the ones they wanted weren't actually going to follow through, and so they were like, "Oh, well, man."
Yeah. They at least have
dropped it,
part of it, but they didn't get all the stuff they wanted. Yeah. So yeah. Man. And the park. I don't know what Enesco is very much so that the Diamond 2 is partnering with for market communications. So I'm assuming it's a. it seems to be part of Ad Populum because the Ad Populum company Enesco.
I've seen. What's funny is I've heard of Enesco before. In relation to all this diamond stuff, it came up at once, and I looked it up.
I think what they are is probably like a customer service kind of group because they say customers worldwide in giftware, home, and garden decor industries.
Yeah.
So now they're also going to be not be more. That's an interesting selection of stuff that this company's been working with to now add comics and toy distribution. Okay. But I guess it's a system they have in place for helping,
Yeah. Okay. So they're a distribution company for a different kind of stuff. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So you're just moving it.
Yeah. They're basically.
To be fair, Ad Populum is also owns WizKids and ECA, so
yeah,
they've already got some toys there.
They're moving things around, shifting things as they kind of adjust stuff as it's going.
Yeah. Oh, and the reason it's called the sister company is because both are owned by Ad Populum. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other distribution-related news is Alliance Games distributor is becoming Universal, which I guess is a name. Universal Distribution. So again, Universal Distribution rebanded its operations, which again, it also got a chunk of Diamond. So there's another group that got a piece of the corpse of Diamond in the original breakup of a lot of its stuff.
Well, I can't help but feel like we're going to see a lot more of this now that they're in liquidation.
I guess the remaining...
No, absolutely. Companies are going to come in and chomp a lot of this up.
Yeah, they already like picked apart at pieces they wanted earlier to like when they were trying to remain solid.
Yeah, kind of, but yeah.
Well, I feel like earlier they had like Diamond itself, when it was still trying to remain as an entity, sold off portions of itself that it felt like was less important. Whatever alliance now Universal got from them was another piece and stuff like that. I assume. So, yeah, they're just rebranded now, which is kind of interesting. It's fine. But they new products categories Alliance has to carry, including comics with DC and Dynamite. So I guess, and so they were working more with some of the bigger comic companies, which is also interesting to see there. And some sports card related stuff. Neat. So, again, it's probably for the best when it comes to distribution in the U.S. Again, because Diamond had a monopoly over everything, and now that they've kind of broken apart, we're seeing smaller stuff form from its corpse at this point in time, and maybe that'll be better overall.
Like, we're seeing medium and large companies eating some of its corpse.
Yeah,
better way of putting it.
They're devouring its corpse and like taking portions of it and forming their own things out of it. So we'll see more of this, especially again as we've said with the actual liquidation of Diamond. We may see even more distribution groups form out of this. We'll have to see what happens.
Honestly, this is probably healthy for the distribution price.
I agree.
The economy.
I do think it's probably going to be healthy for it.
Economy. That's the word I was looking for.
Let's talk about Titus.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'll switch this over here. Titus, everybody's favorite character from Space Marine and Space Marine 2, aka the main character
cool guy.
from Space Marine and Space
Marine 2. He's John Ultramarine.
He is very much John Ultramarine. It's one of those ones of just...
I got my Titus shot.
That's a good one. That was a good one. You broke me there for a second. It's definitely one of those things that, like, when I reflect on the character, he is very much just a generic Ultramarine in a lot of ways.
He's very interesting because while he does appear Mr. Generic face Ultramarine, he's a bit of an outside thinker in the game. He's constantly accused of being a heretic because Mr. Chaplain Man is a meanie.
Yeah. So apparently, like, he's getting a new... Is this a new mini?
So this is technically a new model because, well, he had an original model. It was a promotional thing. So you can't buy it anymore.
Okay.
So he's getting a new model, which I think looks really good. Personally, I'd put it on a helmet because I don't like painting faces.
Yeah.
Fair.
but he's also getting like his own team of like I like how it describes it here in the article, super friends, to work with him.
And they're gonna go take back the 500 worlds of Ulltramar, all 6 of them.
From the one video I saw about like again.
Wait, what?
Okay. So
500 worlds of Ulltramar, all 6 of them. That's my
Yeah,
brain
so
right
like,
there.
so like for some context, the Ultramarines are from a small little part of the Imperium called Ulltramar.
Mhm.
The naming is very creative. Don't worry about it. Over the course of 40k, Ulltramar had started with about 500 worlds. It's lost most of them. I believe it's down to less than 100 now. The new campaign setting book thing is all about the Ultramarines retaking the 500 worlds of Ulltramar, and it's all Titus's job.
Oh.
just to kind of like give you an idea of what this entire thing means, think about Ulltramar as like a state or territory in the overall Imperium. It's like it's got some it still is part of the Imperium, but it kind of has its own kind of mini government for the entire region that kind of
It's technically the best part of the Imperium to live in.
Yeah. So it's like if you're gonna live in a nice place in the medium, you're gonna live somewhere in Ulltramar.
It's as nice as it's going to get.
Is it gonna be great? No, it's still goddamn Imperium.
No, you're probably still gonna die before the age of 30.
Yeah, but maybe you'll have a couple of times where you'll have this nice little meal once in a while. Like once a year, you get a nice like birthday meal. Hey, plus.
You're living in basically Space Rome.
Yeah, you're living in Space Rome, which might be a little bit better than like space dystopia in the middle of a horrible place.
It's at least you're not on a planet called Armageddon.
Or living in a house.
You're not on Armageddon. You're not in the corpse starch factories of Necromunda.
You brought up Armageddon, and Armageddon's the goddamn
You're
planet
welcome.
from the War of the Beast.
Technically, it's in more stuff, but I choose to ignore the War of the Beast connection because I don't believe a lot of those books are canon anymore.
I mean, you really shouldn't. But the fact that they're like, this planet, it technically is Armageddon then, and it's like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Look, they technically brought Armageddon to the planet.
Like, even I, who doesn't dive deep into this, know about some of this stuff tangentially, and it hurt my soul too. But anyway,
so
back to Titus.
So the Wardens of Ulltramar are like Titus's a personal squad. I believe, is chapter. I believe he's getting like a chapter company, which I think would be around 100 dudes.
Yeah,
because a chapter is supposed to be only about 1,000. Spoilers, the number is kind of whatever the author needs it to be at the time.
Yeah.
It's a very fluid number because the consistency is not a thing in Warhammer.
I mean, like, I always felt like the people talked about the excuse was various chapters of Space Marines are more adherent to the rules.
Because, like, you have the Ultramarines who are supposed to revere the Codex as, like, the Bible, and then you have, like, the Black Templar who get around the Codex by never stopping crusading, so therefore they can have as many Space Marines as they need.
Look, we're still crusading. Don't worry about it. We haven't just
right. And then you have like the Space Wolves and the Imperial Fists who just don't give a shit.
Yeah, there are definitely some groups that are just like, yes.
But that sure is a fun book you have there. Get it away from me.
I need something to clean up this mess that I accidentally knocked over. Great, this book is perfect for it.
I am very sad about the Wardens of Ulltramar for none other than my boy, my brave boy Acheron, bravely gunned down by a single gene stealer, so Titus could take his place as captain. And then I guess Charon died too.
The lore of these characters are just dead now. Yes,
these characters who were very important in Space Marine 2, we killed them off in a short story on our website.
It definitely felt like, as someone that, again, I'm not as deep into this, it did feel like We killed them back screen just so that we can continue with this storyline here.
It was very much Poochie must go. Poochie died on the way home to his home planet.
Yes, I must go. My planet needs me, and it's just like he died.
Very much that. So I'm very sad because I liked Acheron, and admittedly, Sharon didn't really have much personality in Space Marine 2. I feel like he was just kind of a forgotten character, unfortunately, because they had to fluff up the other characters a bit more, and Space Marine 2's campaign is only about 6 hours.
Yeah. So, again, I'm gonna say here, I just because it was Titus and like, you know, I saw that he did it. I saw Bricky do a video trying to break down the data sheet here to a degree. And so like I'm going to summarize what I picked up on it. When it comes to normal melee, it is nigh impossible to kill Titus in a lot of ways. So he is kind of broken for not everything, but in a lot of
very busted.
Yeah, in certain like ways, like there's certain armies he hard counters. He does a lot of attacks that are very easy to hit, and apparently like if he's about to die, if he strikes back and kills someone, he does not die. It's basically
which is representative of how he works in Space Marine 2 and 1.
But I think the words were said that on there it doesn't say limited once per game.
No. So it should be.
So he just...
And I feel like there will be an errata that limits it to once per game.
Yes. Hopefully. But currently, he just does that infinitely.
He's a little bit broken.
Apparently, this is also very, like him and his group are very tanky too. Apparently,
they from what I've read, they do seem pretty strong. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bitter towards Ultramarines at the moment because they have gotten the bulk of releases last year for the most part, at least on the Space Marine side of things. So I think we're just a little too inundated with them, but they're also the main driving force of the story, and they're also the template of the Space Marine. So, I don't find Space Marines particularly interesting, personally.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. There's probably interesting stories to be told in amongst them.
You can definitely tell an interesting story, but I can only care so deeply about a big man with big gun shoot heretic.
Well, again, it's from the various conversations I've heard from Bricky and Beyond at this point in time, it does seem like the better stories when it comes to at least 40k are for much more like maybe a guardsman story or honestly an inquisitor story. It sounds like, you know, because
like the best books tend to focus on there are very good Space Marine books. Hell's Reach, which is about Armageddon, is a very good Space Marine book. I would actually say it's probably the best Space Marine book. I'm sure there are other also good ones. I just don't read a lot of Space Marine centric books in 40k. If you're trying to get into 30k, I'm sorry, all you're going to get is Space Marine books because that's the bulk of that era.
Yeah, that's the Space Marine era, isn't it?
But they're just kind of a little boring. I feel like. I like Titus enough. I liked Space Marine 2. I do still sometimes play Space Marine 2. I really liked the Secret Level episode with Titus, and I don't remember the other guy's name.
Isn't he in here?
I think he's in the squad. Yeah, he's the guy with the shield and the sword.
Yeah. So he's wasn't he supposed to be like? I heard someone talk about this, and it was like he's supposed to be like.
He's like Titus's father figure, kind of.
Yeah, his mentor in the Ultramarines. So you know, like, so I mean, again, I think it's also I can see this coming out because we do know they're talking about Space Marine 3, and there might be like a big announcement on its release next year, this upcoming year, at some point in time. So, because I know that we've heard that the people behind Space Marine 2 are working on it, you know.
We have Space Marine 3 coming. We have 500 Worlds coming, which is going to be a campaign book set for 10th edition, which is likely going to lead into 11th edition probably next year.
we of course have a lot of big Warhammer games and stuff too. Total War 40K,
Dawn of War 4, because I almost called it 3 because I forget there's actually is a third game already.
Yeah. So it's. I can see making a thing for him as the main character of this, but this then comes back to the killing a person in Legends and getting rid of him from the lore. It's like, as much as like I think it's fine to do a version of a character from the books in the miniatures, I do agree it probably should be separate at that point in time.
Yeah, because you hit a point where, hey, if this model is like really popular, we don't want to kill him off.
Yeah.
Because like Calgar, who keeps getting models, he's not dead yet, and he's been around forever.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you this thing here, which kind of weirdly works in other settings. Let's say like another big collectible thing. I was thinking of Magic here for collectible. There are characters that have died. Guess what? They can still make cards on them. Why? Because sometimes they talk about things in the history, or sometimes they do side things where they do cards on them. Traditionally, also, those cards still can be used.
Yeah.
Just because they're dead in the lore doesn't mean you can't play with them. I, in my game, can resurrect the corpse of Gideon and throw him in front of you.
Like, I think like legends are usable, but they have different rules, which is really, really annoying. Because dreadnoughts are largely being phased out for the Primaris dreadnought, which a lot of people are, including me, are very annoyed by, because I think the Redemptor dreadnought, it just doesn't look as good as the box dreadnought that's more typical. So you have that issue with phasing out models. You have issues of like, you have this thing called Forge World, which is the like more. I believe it's still owned by Games Workshop, but it's more like more like resin models and stuff. A lot of that is getting completely phased out, so you won't ever be able to get those again. A lot of legend models just can't be bought anymore, so you're effectively removing them from new players. It's just a rough way to do things.
Yeah. I feel like it probably was fine for a lot of years, but certainly speaking with the popularity and rise of a lot of this stuff, especially now, I feel like it's a bad idea at this point in time to continue with a lot of the directions they're going with this stuff. Because I'm sorry, like, what happens to someone who's getting into the thing, reads one of your old books, and was like, oh, did this one have a miniature? Can I play with that? Because it is a weird thing to say, like, I can't play with a miniature no matter what, of like interesting characters as part of stories, even if they died in those ones, in a lot of ways. Especially if they had ones before. Because again, my tabletop game is not lore. What? It's like
a big one that gets brought up that I think is fair to have like legend to him is a guy called Sebastian Yarrick. His model was quite old, and he existed around the time of the second and third War for Armageddon. But so much time has passed that logically he wouldn't still be alive.
Okay.
So in that way, you have to remove him because he isn't alive currently. Because something that used to happen with 40K is everything used to take place in M41999. That ended around 8th edition, so the setting moved into M42, and a lot of characters are now getting aged out by the fact that humans don't live forever.
I think that's also like a fine thing to do between like editions and stuff like that. Like they do that with like Shadowrun. Shadowrun, every time they do a new edition, they go between 5 and 10 years in the future. And so that does mean if in an older edition you had a character, they're aged up. If I have a character from an interesting story from 1st edition, honestly, he's probably dead by 6th edition. So having like also time go by is a good excuse for doing that rather than that. And I guess it sounds like they haven't been doing that as much either. So I don't know. It's sort of like
something I get annoyed with is I'm going to bring up. This is technically kind of spoilers for two pretty bad Eldar books, the Yanari books. I don't know if you've heard of what the Yanari is. I don't know if you've delved into that kind of subsection, because I know Adeptus Ridiculous doesn't really talk about the Eldar very much.
Like an older empire of them.
So the Eldari are like the empire that ruled the galaxy. Were humans. They did a lot of bad things. Slaanesh was born. They all mostly died.
Yeah.
The Yanari exist as a faction that their goal is to bring back the Eldari god of the dead and unite all of the Eldar as one force. They're going to do this by getting a MacGuffin, all of the MacGuffins called Crone Swords. In the first book, they get all but one. And how do they resolve this plot line? They don't. In the second book, it's revealed the last Crone Sword is in the Palace of Slaanesh. This faction is now completely useless and is likely going to be phased out.
Huh. So they like took a book to like establish everything and come up with like a cool lore and an idea for like a group.
Basically were like, we're going to resolve all of the most of the Yanari plotline in one book. And then it was supposed to be a trilogy. The second book comes around. It's revealed the last Crone Sword is in the possession of Slaanesh herself, meaning the Eldar physically can never obtain it because Slaanesh can just eat them instantly. And then all of the Eldar go back to fighting each other because the goal is unattainable.
Okay. I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna take a step back and be like, Eldar are very tricksy and manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Could not they, as a plan, trick the humans into going and getting it?
The problem is Slash's palace is inside of the warp.
I'm just saying, a bunch of idiot space marines could maybe break in there and do stuff. They could be convinced of shit. Fulgrim and his minions are kind of over there on the side nearby. You could do something with convincing them of anti-Fulgrim.
What I think is probably going to happen is a Primarch is going to come back with it. And that's going to piss me off because I don't like Primarchs. I think they are characters that are ruining the setting.
So, here's the thing, like, not everything's all sunshine and glory in the demon worlds. They fight each other a lot. There's definitely ways to get something from a place.
I feel like for me, like, I kind of agree with you about the idea of Primarchs from, like, hearing the storyline. I think we really should only have maybe the two we have.
I think only Guilliman should be back. I think that's the only one who should have come back.
I think because, like, Guilliman was in suspended animation. He's around the same age. But the Lion is kind of older. He's actually aged. He's probably not in his prime. I think he might be fine. Like, you know, he actually has I'm old man, you know.
Bringing the Lion and Guilliman back is also... Sorry, that's my phone. I'll deal with it in a minute. Is also a very symbolic thing because in the Horus Heresy, when no one knew if the Imperium was still in existence because Ulltramar was cut off by a warp storm, the Lion and Guilliman formed the Imperium Secundus to make sure humanity lives. So having those two come back to lead the Imperium now is a very symbolic thing.
And I think that might be...
I think you should cut it off at that and bring none of the other ones back.
That's what I was thinking, because I heard about that Imperium Secundus thing, and I'm like, that might be a great way. And currently, they're not together, but that could be like a major storyline, major plot lines of them, like, you know... Again, I feel like the Imperium can still suck, but it doesn't mean you can't have, like, hope for someone working towards a better future. I'm sorry, as much as those two can try to improve things, it's not going to be really great. It's going to be slightly better, but maybe that's the storyline. They're attempting to, like, fix things a little bit. It's a little bit better.
Guilliman came back, saw how bad things on Terra was, and when he tried to change things, the High Lords of Terra were like, no, why would we listen to you? Your people almost killed off humanity. Guilliman's reaction to this, because remember, Primarchs are not good people, was to have all of them assassinated and replaced.
I mean, Unfortunately, it sounds like every time I hear about like the Lords of Terra, they're never great.
Oh, they're very incompetent. They're very self-serving and incompetent.
Like hearing about the ones in the War of the Priest, where like the only one that was competent was the head of the assassins, who then like killed off all the rest of them.
We got, the War of the Beast gave us two very important things. It gave us the worst Eldari diplomat we've ever seen, and the best orc diplomat we've ever seen.
That was correct. The orc diplomat was my favorite goddamn thing, who just shows up and it's like, so how are you surrendering? It's an orc diplomat. That's perfectly sounds like an orc diplomat. It's like, so can we talk about your surrender?
But to bring it back to my point, they've done this a few times. They most recently did it with the Grey Knights, where it's like, the Grey Knights got their plot point of, if the Emperor ever gets off the Golden Throne, you have to put him back. How are they getting past everything on Terra to do that? That feels like you're writing that to sunset the Grey Knights because they're all gonna die.
But also, like, I'm gonna say here, is there a good reason why they have that in their lore?
I think it was a tidbit because they're going off of the Mad King plot, which is there's a fifth Chaos God. It may be Horus, it might be the Emperor. So if the Emperor ever gets off that damn chair, he's a Chaos God now.
I mean, he's already like partially the way there. Gotta be honest, I feel
and then they bring Malal back into the setting, and I hope they do.
I feel like it's an unfortunate thing that it might take a long time, but like, kind of like with the Eldari, they did a lot of horrible things that, like caused Slaanesh. I feel like eventually, probably like a million years in the future, if things kept up with it, they'd probably be there, unless there's some acceleration that,
like
we don't know
the
about.
biggest problem I have with the Yunari plot is effectively you gave us the coolest faction of Eldar ever. It's granted, admittedly, a very broken faction because you can take a bunch of different factions units and put them into one army. It's very broken. And then you're like, okay, in lore, we're gonna just throw them away, and also we're not really gonna update them anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, it's like, oh, it's Slaanesh's castle. Well, I mean, I could see a plot where they align with like a chaos god to try and get it back or something. Like, there's definitely stuff you could do.
Just
honestly,
Games Workshop loves to write plots that they will never finish and they'll just throw away.
Actually, that's another idea that you're like, yeah, chaos gods hate each other. I'm sure you could like,
well, they hate each other to like a point.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
they do still actively work together.
Again, like, it doesn't mean that there could not be a deal brokered somewhere.
But it's also like, I think instead of focusing on the Crone Swords, one, you should have had that plot happen way more slowly. Maybe they get like one or two, and then they can do something. Have them go and rescue the goddamn Eldar god that's in Nurgle's realm, who's still very much alive. Have them go save her.
Please get her out of the jar.
Make the Avatar of Cain not suck.
Yeah. Yeah, because like they technically have 3 living gods. Have Tegorok do something. As much as like the Harlequins are weird and I don't know what they're doing with them, have him do something. That could bring them back in a neat way. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, they don't use them very well. It sounds like I'm looking at you, War of the Beast. I remember
the Harlequins are a weird faction, and I love them, but I don't ever want to like run them because they have checker patterns, and that's a pain to deal with.
But again, like, it's like an interesting idea that they're just not used. I think that's the big thing. Games Workshop comes up with interesting ideas and either they throw them out or don't
around one of the plot points I'm still really mad like didn't go anywhere is when Gilliman came back, because he obviously came back with the help of Euphrain and the Eldar.
Yeah.
I think Olflay was there too doing something. I don't really remember, but there was an explicit thing stated in the lore in the book that Gilliman decreed humanity will stop killing the Eldar, and we will work together. Pretty soon after that, they released a Warhammer Plus animation of a bunch of Ultramarines slaughtering the Eldar.
I think that's a plot point I think would be pretty good of like it's like one of those things is in lore, you certainly have had points in times where, like, you know, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines have united together because something else worse than both of them is next to them, and they're like, we'll stop killing each other long enough for that. So I feel like you can never be friends with the Eldar, but you could be like, hey, we got bigger fish to fry. Let's go murder someone else, work with them until we're done, and
Like,
then we can start killing each other again.
Realistically, with the state of the galaxy, literally everyone should, at this point, be aligned together against the two biggest threats, the Tyranids and Chaos. The fact that they are not, and they have set up plot points for that to happen, and they're just like, nah, we're just gonna not do that, is very lame, because they don't want to set up the quote-unquote end times for 40k.
Here's the thing. You could probably fight back Chaos back to, like, maybe the Eye. And that could be an interesting storyline. It's still there. You can't get rid of it. As it's one of those things. Chaos is unkillable. You could beat it back into a more controlled position. The Tyranids, you could probably wipe out the ones from the galaxy. Does not maybe get rid of their threat. Another one could show up at any time, you know, and if things go back to normal. You could not have an end times plot while dealing with some of the more major threats that are out there, because you've established them as big threats, but doesn't mean they can't go away. Like I'm sorry, like in like Stars, you can get rid of one area of like the weird outside alien invasion, but sometimes they show up in another area. You know, you're not necessarily getting rid of them. You can fight them back, but you know, it's not done. You know, and that can be the kind of thing with the Tyranids, where there could be remnants of them that you may never get rid of, kind of like with the goddamn orcs. They're really hard to kill off. You know, it could be the same. It could just be like, maybe you beat back the main fleets, but there's still a threat that's kind of out there deep in the galaxy that you may never get rid of. And then maybe it goes back to things as normal. There's a lot of storylines you could probably do that would be interesting, because I do have to say, like, I can see why Tyranids are neat, but they're not great storyline issue.
You can't write a book about a Tyranid because they don't have characters.
Yeah, like, it's the difference, I feel like, between other apocalyptic swarms. Many of the other ones that people write, you can either communicate with or have a level of intelligence that you can actually kind of understand. Like the Eldrazi from Magic. They are a little understandable, but someone was able to talk with Emrakul. They are communicable. You can communicate with them. You might not understand them. It might drive you mad, but it's not impossible to, like, at least do something there. And, like, the Tyranid are just a swarm of creatures. And yes, they have a hive mind, but they don't, like,
they have a hive mind outside of the galaxy. And anytime someone is trying to, like, psychically communicate with it, they've either killed themselves or gone insane.
Yeah,
I feel like you could do a plot from the perspective of a Gene Stealer cult.
They do have one Gene Stealer book. It's called Day of Ascension. It's very good.
Yeah. I guess that's the best direction you can go with it.
That's about all you could really narratively do with a book from the Tyranid perspective, is a Gene Stealer.
Like, again, it's when you're driving lore, which drives then sales of miniatures and the game itself.
Which then drives more lore, because you've sold a lot of this character.
Yeah. You really need something that can have interesting lore and stuff. And, like, again, I understand you can't get rid of everything, but it just because a faction has been beaten back to the edges doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the world. Then again, like, there too. Hey, you know, if they would support Eldar more, Eldar are there. They don't have a lot of numbers, but they're technically there. You can have a bunch of miniatures of them.
Eldar are too busy getting retcons. They're ruining their faction every year.
Leagues of Votann aren't a lot of guys, but they're there.
Leagues of Votann got a book, and then Games Workshop forgot they existed again.
Oh.
Because I presume they didn't sell very well. Although the book is very good. I do recommend the Votann book.
It was an interesting concept in a lot of ways.
I just like space. Like, the Leagues of Votann are being hard carried by a different franchise.
They are being hard carried by...
They're being hard carried by Deep Rock Galactic.
Yes. I'm not going to lie, it's true. They really are. If Deep Rock wasn't there, they would not be carried quite as hard.
They'd probably be eaten by Tyranids like the original squads.
Wait, what about...
The Leagues of Votann are basically Deep Rock Galactic. They're space dwarves.
They're space dwarves who like mining and like money.
Yeah.
Got it.
They've got some extra
They have
lore to them.
They've got a book and a codex, and I think that's about it.
And they're technically an
Granted, they
abhuman.
only came out like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
so...
And they're technically an abhuman, but, like, you know, they don't want humans to know about them because they're like, humanity would claim us. So we're totally alien, don't worry about it.
They're the new version of squats from old 40k.
Mm-hmm.
So the big problems, the big enemies in 40k are the warp and the demons, the chaos, the tyrannids.
So if you're looking at it specifically from, let's just go with a human perspective.
Yeah.
The biggest enemies you will face are the Tyranids, who are currently pushing towards Terra, Chaos, who split the galaxy in half, Orcs, who are ripping through large swaths of the galaxy at the moment. Those are the 3 biggest problems. And you're spread so thin you can't deal with any of them.
Yeah. I feel like if that, like, the problem is like, oh, Earth is gonna collapse. I feel like they could so easily do a plot line where, like, one of the chaos gods flips and turns on the others, and, like, a big war breaks out, and that, like, causes a bunch of issues for the bad guys for once.
Yeah, again, like, I can see them having a skirmish between each other or something like that, and definitely a plot line happening where something happens that one chaos god ends up on the shit list from another one, at least for time period. You know,
the problem with chaos in 40k and how it's written, and this is going to be more me complaining, because chaos is basically channeled through psychers. You have a psyker on your planet who's, say, unsanctioned or even a sanctioned one, and they have like a bad dream or they sneeze wrong, they're going to explode into a portal and demons are going to start coming through. So I'm not really sure how you're meant to defend against that.
Yeah.
There's also a big warp portal under the Imperial Palace that is still there, I think.
Yeah. I think it's because that's what the throne is holding back in a lot of ways, technically.
Yeah, the throne is holding that back and also being like the beacon in the galaxy so people can find Earth.
Yeah, it's twofold. It's a beacon in the universe, and it's also like the Emperor on the throne is keeping the portal, which Magnus accidentally fucked up.
Poor Magnus.
Yeah.
The other threats you have are Drakari, who are they're Eldar pirates who really just they feed off of torturing people.
Yeah.
But they're more of a minor threat. And then you have the Necrons, whose 2 worlds are waking up all across your empire, and you have to deal with them as well. But the Necrons are also fighting each other for power. So they're also a minor threat.
And the Necrons also are very slow to do stuff, so it's
they're slow. They're slow. They're relatively mindless. They have maybe a dynasty will have maybe a couple of people who are actually sentient.
Yeah. So it's like the Necrons are a threat, but they're not very well organized. And honestly speaking, for them, they might think about something for 100 years and then decide to do something. You know, so it's sort of like they're.
Well, there was that time that them and the Mechanicus had a weapons of mass destruction fight where they just threw super weapons at each other for a little bit.
I just feel like there's so many enemies that could fight each other that could give humans a reprieve if something happens that it's such an easy plot line to
It's the problem of because the setting is so old and they're so afraid to move anything forward. Because if they move, if your favorite faction starts losing, it's going to upset people.
Yeah.
And that means less sales, right?
My point, though, is that part of the issue with the current setup is that basically humans are kind of doomed because every enemy is fighting them. And, not each other.
Yeah, the universe of 40k is a doomed universe.
Yeah.
Because eventually the true ending is the Tyranids are just going to win.
Yeah, well, that's the easiest one. I mean,
again,
you have a creature from outside a galaxy that can just even send more even if they're pushed back.
You have creatures who are outside the galaxy who are largely unaffected by chaos and have adapted to eat chaos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even know they could eat chaos.
I think the only thing that they have trouble with is orcs because they just,
there was the time where orcs and Tyranids fought each other so much that both sides just got hyper strong.
Yeah.
It,
But
it,
I
it
just
looks-
feel like there's so many ways if you want to keep... My point, though, is that this is actually a way to keep things more or less the same. By having the enemies pushed back, you can give, the Imperium some breathing room, which can cause them to become strengthened, which can cause all the fighting to start. That's almost like my point, is that you could actually write a plot that causes things that both makes interesting things happen, but also preserves your current universe.
And interesting things are happening largely. Like every book they release is largely still pretty good nowadays.
Yeah.
You got really interesting characters. The problem comes down to this was a setting that was never designed for a narrative that they put a narrative into.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I've heard, is that like every narrative is kind of leading towards this ultimate demise because there's no way to actually fight back against everything that's happening.
And because of the reaction to old world or to old fantasy getting end times, I don't see Games Workshop doing anything that severe to 40K.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying it's like, and so they're gonna have to do something, and that's why I'm like, I'm surprised they haven't taken that route to like.
I think it's the thing
stabilize things.
They are probably trying to figure out the right direction to go with doing it, and they have not figured that out yet. I think there is probably a direction to advance the meta plot in, but like the things that they have done to the meta plot are interesting, but they don't advance the overall thing. They advance small portions of it. Like, oh, Gilliman's back. Oh, the universe is divided by 2 by chaos after Fall of Cadia. These are big things. They advance the plot a little bit, but they don't really advance the overall plot. They're little steps. They're taking baby steps in direction. And really, it's like, I gotta be honest, if the franchise, with it growing in popularity now, it really needs bigger steps. It needs bigger stories to actually have directions to them. You don't need to get to that end time to have directions. Kind of what I'm saying is like, there's a middle ground, and I don't see them taking that middle ground. I think that would probably be the best
not
bet.
at the present moment. I think they should just fully disconnect the lore from the game at this point.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think they that's the best thing. If they disconnect the lore, they can write all these crazy stories. They can have all your factions. You can play out battles throughout all of 40K's timeline, meaning you can have the characters you want. Maybe you have some specific rules for like named characters that you have to specifically play at like this time period of this edition if you're going to use them. Like you say, like, oh, I'm playing like around the time that I would use Yorick or something right there. But otherwise you'd phase them out if you're doing like the different kind of battles and stuff. And maybe then they could give lists for miniatures you would use in those time periods, or like, hey, this one could be used in that time period for this like edition of the game that you're playing. Maybe add multiple ways of playing the game other than just 40K 30K.
Well, there are multiple games. There's Kill Team, there's Necromunda, there's Horus Heresy, there's 40K, there's Titanicus, which I don't think I've never met a single person who's ever played that game mode, so I don't know how popular that one is. But it's what happens when your narrative setting is driven by sales.
Yeah, I think
plastic toys.
That definitely needs to be separated out, the two of them. You can have them like I think what you can do is you can have the narrative add stuff to the plastic toys, but you should not have in the reverse. I think that's the entire thing. It is by having the reverse, you are crippling yourself horribly, and they've got to realize that, especially again, with their popularity nowadays, this is just getting to be a worse and worse problem very quickly.
Yeah, because everyone's a little bit dissatisfied with where their faction is at the moment, I feel like. Except orcs. Orc fans, we're like, they're orcs. They're green guys.
I can see that.
The orc books have been quite good recently, so.
Yeah, and orcs just are there. I mean, like, it's like, they're not, you know what you're getting into with orcs. They're there, they're having a good time, they want to fight. Are they great beings? No, they're orcs. They're going to smash you when they have a chance. And if you don't die, you're working for them, no matter how horrible that is. Congratulations. You're under them now. They're the boss. But again, you don't need a lot for orc good time, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah. I
think that's why they have more interesting writing and why like people like them a lot, because they're they're there and simple. You know, you don't have the weird complexities sometimes. That
So I would say the best books at the moment are Orcs, Necron. Drakari got a good book recently. The Tau got a really good book recently. And then a lot of the other stuff has been like various Space Marine books. I don't know if there's been a recent Chaos book. I feel like there has, or I feel like we're getting one. Either has, because there's been the Fulcrum book, which I didn't like personally. And then there's been the Lucius the Eternal book, which I quite liked. And then you just got, here's a bunch of Space Marine books, because you have a bunch of Space Marine characters.
It's that entire thing of like, there are interesting ideas that have been laid that I've heard about in 40K that they'll never do anything with, because again, it's miniatures and it's gameplay driving the lore, where I think you can come up with some really cool ideas and do things if you separate them out, certainly speaking. Because, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, the 9-to-9 balance between them, they're one's dead on both sides. Don't really freaking do that. It doesn't, isn't there, like, I'm not gonna say, like, an easy possibility, but I heard in the lore, I'm gonna have to remember his name, the one that's under Nurgle. There's, like, a core of, like, possibility for redemption in him or something like that.
Mortarion? Probably. I don't know a lot about Mortarion.
I just heard that there had been a storyline that, like, there was a core of something that, like, there could be redemption. And again, like, I don't think there's walking back completely from Demon Primarch.
No, because Mortarion is, like, he was forced into it.
Yeah, but I think because he was forced into it, there are steps you could take that maybe you could separate him from Nurgle. So it's sort of like he might still be like a demon, but maybe if he's not aligned with Chaos anymore, he could be his own thing, and he'd be like, "Look, I'm not your enemy anymore. You've managed to save me from
more or
control."
less in like the wider lore, most of the demon Primarchs chose their power because they felt slighted in some way.
Yeah.
Mortarion got screwed into it because one of his guys basically was like, "Oh, we're going into the warp now. I'm turning off the engines. We're gonna be here for a while."
But again, like,
so it wasn't great for them.
I think that would be an interesting story too, and like, you know, with the Primarchs on the, you know, human side, we don't really want them back. The demon ones just keep coming back, but again, they also get like bitch slapped a lot or something. There's weird storylines that they do.
One of the problems with demon Primarchs is they've kind of stopped being characters, and they're kind of just like a force of nature in the setting.
Yeah. I think that's it's like it's so weird then too, you know. I think that's the entire thing, is like they just use things poorly in a lot of this way, I think sometimes.
Yeah, it's the combination of 30 plus years of writing, right?
Yeah.
So it's all kind of led to this point, a lot of contradictory writing. They want to focus now, I think they're focusing more on post heresy, pre 40th millennia stuff, like the Scouring, because they have a Scouring book that's coming out soon. So I think they want to focus a little more there to kind of bridge the gap a bit more.
I guess that's a fine place to kind of explore.
You've got most of the factions alive in that time period, except you don't really have Tyranids because they kind of maybe showed up in like M35, but also kind of maybe didn't.
And it took a while for Tau to show up too, I think, because they were in
Tau had to evolve. Necrons have just kind of always been there.
Yeah. They really haven't been awake, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be like little bastions of like some
because like Trey's and the Silent King and Orkin have been awake the whole time, so you could definitely have Necron characters.
Yeah.
In that time period.
So I can see like exploring in between there being very interesting, but again, like it's like they've as a big, I gotta be honest, major franchise in the tabletop sphere nowadays. Like, Warhammer has always been there, but they are front and center now. They got to do something about it. Like,
it's very messy at the moment.
It's so messy. Like, we complain when other things that have like deep lore, like, I mean, when it's all deep lore, but like, I'm sorry, I complain when like Magic does shitty stuff in there.
Like you like there was some pretty hard complaining when Drow got changed in 5th edition.
Yeah, like these are things that are like these are big things that don't feel huge, but they're lore things, and when you're changing them, you got to be careful about that. And I understand that, but a lot of times most of these times we complain is when they do something stupid. You know,
Like
if we
I
do
also
something
want to point out,
we don't care.
I also want to be clear. I know it sounds like I maybe hate 40K. 40K is like the only sci-fi setting at this point I still like, because a lot of the legacy IPs have been driven fully into the ground.
Yeah, a lot of them have been.
I like 40K. If I didn't like 40K, I wouldn't be complaining about it.
I can only hope, because I have heard recently, as a one, the people that did Stargate, the SG-1 series, and all their spin-offs are doing something new. And I'm supposed to be, we're going to hear about it this year.
Yeah, we can
I hope it's
that's
good. I liked, even Universe wasn't bad.
Yeah,
They didn't really do a lot of good stuff with that stories, but I think the first two series were very good. You know, so maybe they can come up back with something interesting. I'm just saying, we can have some sci-fi series return. That'd be nice. That's a little bit more of a legacy. I would like that. You know, we're never gonna get back to the greatness of Star Wars or Star Trek.
Stop breaking all the legacy franchises, please.
Yeah. We've got little components that are nice in Star Wars and Star Trek, but the most of it's a shit show now, unfortunately. So, hey.
Me looking at Halo not having been good for like 15 years.
Yeah. We have a deeper discussion topic, but I think we talked about like Warhammer.
There was a lot of
complaining about that for the
Warhammer IP complaining.
Yeah, that was kind of our deeper discussion.
I think that's going to be our deeper discussion.
I got the venting out that I needed to get out.
Honestly speaking, I was happy to add into it, because one of those things is me looking on the outside, because I'm only really into the lore of 40K. You know, I don't play the game at all. I don't play a lot of the video games. I think I've played a little bit of I tried a little bit of Dark Tide.
I probably should actually buy Dark Tide at some point.
I got it, and so I want to try.
It's like $9, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Maybe... I'd have to spend $8 to get the Arbite class. So
here's the thing: maybe if someone else wants to play with me, I'll play more of that, because I was just on my own, you know, trying it out a little bit.
Play what?
Dark
Tide. I'm gonna buy it now.
Dark Tide, yeah.
I might be tempted to buy the Arbidius class. I got Dark Tide, I think, through Humble, but like the guy and his dog is just wonderful. I'm sorry.
I love Arbites. They're my favorite characters usually.
Yeah, they're Judge Dredd. I like Judge.
I don't much care for the Hive Scum stuff that they revealed.
Oh hey, I have Dark Tide.
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy it. It's only $20 to get these two things. That's fine.
I'll download it. Man, that's a lot of gigs.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a chunky game now.
They've added a lot of stuff to it.
Which, one thing I'd be thankful of is Helldivers 2 is no longer 150 gigabytes.
I really like that they fixed that.
Didn't they cut it down by a third?
It's like 24 gigabytes now.
It was like, I think they explained why it was so large, and it's like one of those things of like how it was like being run and stuff like that. And when they figured out they could do it an easier way, they fixed it. You know, I'm just gonna throw
There's a whole thing about like how to compress things, and also be able to unpack them to play.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier just to down them to like have them saved as is and run them off that. The compression needed to like make these things work can actually be very complicated.
Yeah, they had the Helldivers devs had to like hire a specialized company to do it.
Yeah. So, because it's basically all about making everything, like compressing everything, so that way when you like uncompress it and during gameplay, it's not problematic.
So, yeah, I guess we'll save our original deeper discussion topic for next week. I'll kind of transfer that over, and we'll just kind of say we ranted about Warhammer lore.
Just the subtitle could just be Momo Rants about Warhammer.
Yeah, that sounds great. That becomes our deeper discussion. All right, why don't we talk about our week in gaming? Whee!
Yeah. Woo,
So,
positives. Hopefully.
Well, we're gonna have Joe's game tomorrow. We'll see how positive that is.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, like
we're done the worst part, I think.
Yeah, also watching a lot of D&D stuff lately, I realized part of the issue is that basically the boss fight, it was literally designed to deal with people who spammed bullshit. Like, we are not,
Nice.
it was not designed for a team. So basically there was a lot of counter spells, a lot of legendary resistances, a lot of ways to shut down what would otherwise be, like broken combos. And there's a whole thing where it's like apparently a lot of D&D monsters are going that route to deal with a lot of the craziness that are kind of well known now.
Craziness that they created.
Yeah. So it's a whole thing.
So those of us that want to play just normal fun stuff that isn't crazy, we get punished.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I also just think it was very poorly designed from the get-go because of like the whole literally every enemy we're fighting has ways to completely shut down player turns.
Yeah.
Sometimes for multiple rounds.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like so much incapacitation, so much stun, so much, confusion. It was just like that was such a terrible fight.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It is when you have things designed to shut down like skills or shut down turns, like not even shut down skills. Well, like that's the thing. You were confused, so you lost pretty much all your turns. I got counterspelled pretty much every time I tried to do something. That basically made it 2 people versus 3. And that's all that had to be focused on to actually do like that's basically what the fight was. Because 2 of us were shut down the whole time.
Yeah. It's sort of like I lost 8 turns.
Nice. That's so fun.
Yeah.
It was 7 because you were confused for 8 turns,
no,
but you succeeded once.
I succeeded on turn 9. The turn right before confusion would ended for me.
When you rolled confusion 1 turn, you got act normally.
Yeah, the first turn. So that was 8 turns then, because I saved at the end of my turn. So on turn 9, I made my save at the end of it.
I thought it was the end of turn 8, but okay.
No, it was turn 9. I remember because I was thinking, well, next turn I'll be done. Anyway.
Okay.
And then we got hit by confusion again, but I was already confused, so it didn't increase the time at all, which was nice. Because I failed again. Save. Because I always failed the saves.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it sucked that you had a 1 in 4. Like, that's the thing. Like, you kept saying, oh, I have to roll super high. You had a 1 in 4, which isn't horrible. But it's also not great. Like I said, most things in D&D are designed to be 50-50s for conditions and stuff, basically, success.
I had a 1 in 4 chance, but, like, I was thinking about it, too, is for the confusion, I might have been failing a lot, but I was rolling a lot of saves, so all my successes were in other places. Because we were rolling a save at the end of all of our turns, also. That was other stuff, because she had, like, an attack at the end of every round. I was rolling a billion saves. It was a lot. Anyway. But how about anybody?
Yeah, I would have, if I were, I'm going to be honest, that game I actually think could have been fixed, at least in part, by just making that confusion last a round.
Yeah.
If you
fail it, yeah. How about Monday? Anybody Monday?
But no, the rules as written said as per the spell, and Joe ruled that as for a whole minute if you fail.
I had my game Monday.
Ooh.
They went into the Underdark. They explored a spooky facility and found out that some ancient elves that are still on this planet maybe lost control of a piece of a god that the villain now has possession of.
Pleasant.
And now they're gonna blow up basically a giant nuke in the Underdark and sink the country they're in to stop it.
How many times are people going to blow up stuff before they learn it's not a great idea?
To be fair, this is like the end of the world, so...
I guess, but like, the amount of blowing up stuff in relation to this like world has been like so much. It's just...
it's getting pretty rough on this planet. You don't want to live here. The good news is, though, after they deal with this, there's going to be a little bit of pause in hostilities, as both sides need to retreat and fix themselves.
Yeah. Well,
So there'll be a little bit of downtime, and people will stop dying for a small amount of time.
Hopefully.
We can only hope.
How about Tuesday?
Tuesday, we had Pathfinder game I'm in, the Hell's Rebels. I was slightly incorrect about something I had said previously. Previously, it sounded like the book was sending us to the south of Cheliax. It is just simply sending us to the south of the little country we're in that's rebelling.
Okay.
Which is a much shorter distance, but the book really made it sound like we were leaving the country.
Okay, so the book implied very far, but it's not that far.
Yeah, but it's actually like I think it was like a 2-day boat ride.
That's not too bad. Okay.
So not too bad. We're gonna go kill an aboleth who has necromancer levels.
Yeah, that's always pleasant.
Pretty typical stuff. Shouldn't be too hard, because we did have a discussion of like someone else had a discussion of like, hey, Aboleth can be not fun. Maybe we don't use the dominate monster ability, because if you do that to me or Lightning's character, 2 other characters are going to die.
Yeah.
But we went to like an aquatic elf village who was having troubles with this, and the guy came up to us as like, you're outsiders and you need to leave. And I pulled basically you are being rescued, do not resist, and threatened him to leave me alone. So yeah, we're gonna go deal with that. We also fought some underwater ghouls before that, and then we're gonna go down a big hole that leads to presumably a dungeon that's underwater, because this adventure has underwater dungeons. We can't escape it. The good news is that while I'm underwater, I have 31 AC.
That's always good.
So you know. Yeah, apparently the Cloak of the Manta Ray doesn't unequip your armor when you use it. So I have my armor and then the natural armor bonus from the Manta Ray cloak.
That's interesting.
Because they didn't think that one through in the wording.
That's interesting, because traditionally a lot of like more shape-changing things do remove your armor bonus unless
it's a really poorly worded item. I even said to Sel, hey, do we want to like make it so it removes my armor so I don't have 31 AC?
While you're a Manta Ray? Yeah.
Well, I'm a Manta Ray. So yeah, that game's been going kind of fun. I've been having fun with that game.
That's good. We had Wednesday game, Fall Down and Swell. I think that went very well.
Yep.
What do you think of it? So basically they finished Gathering Together ritual, and there was a weird semi-time travel thing, that happened. As the guy said, you're kind of more like an echo showing up, and I'm an echo for you, and it's kind of a weird thing. Like, we're talking to each other kind of across time. Yeah.
It's time travel.
Yes. It's time travel where the characters...
He saw the future and we saw the past. It's time travel.
Yeah. Where, like, a powerful being basically was like, I'm going to ensure a certain future by having you guys show up at this point in time and, like, accidentally warn this guy while he warns you about information. You're welcome. Usual divine shenanigans. Yes, I like you a lot too, Adventure. I'm glad you're, like, marking my hand and being very friendly here. Yeah, so you got a ritual. You're trying to get like the artifact, but something's there to possibly stop you. We'll see how that goes next time. But it was
Oh right, the thing popped in. I actually almost completely forgot about that. Some weird shadow or ooze creature. I wasn't sure which.
Yeah, it looked like kind of like a ooze made of living shadow or something like that. Kind of bursted through the entire.
Thus shadow or ooze creature. I wasn't sure.
That
which.
is exactly the proper. But I'm saying that's the proper description. Shadow or ooze thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm hoping that this entire thing with the ritual stuff has been interesting. I've been trying to keep it a little fresh overall, and hopefully it'll be a nice culmination of the adventure coming up here soon. So, yeah. Anybody do anything tabletop related Wednesday or Thursday?
No, besides listening to lore, no.
We did something. I just remembered. We got back to Tabletop Sim.
Yeah, on Thursday we did the got back to Tabletop Sim and did the final bit of the Wrath of a Chardalon fight against the 3 generals.
Yeah, we basically started this like months and months and months ago, and we had it saved in Joe's Tabletop Sim.
March or May or something like that was the last time we played.
So it's been a long time. Hi, you're looking adorable. I love you too. Yes, you get pets. I know, you really want attention here. Adventure's like, love me, give me attention, give me pets. I want them all. I'm very distracted. It was fun to get back to that. I mean, like, I do like Wrath of Chardalon and the D&D adventures. They're fun little games. So it was fun to actually finish that and maybe set up for another one at some point in time. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And Tabletop Sim save system actually working this long was really nice, you know? Also learning that Tabletop Sim's going to be having, what, like, is it a 2.0 release soon? Or they're working on it? That's going to be an update to all their kind of stuff or something. Was it a 2.0?
Oh, yeah. They're calling it their 2.0. It's basically just going to be some updates that are going to make things a little bit easier for everyone and, like, kind of refresh things to be a little bit more modern.
That's good, because, like, again, Tabletop Simulator it feels like a standard a lot of times. The amount of times I see people, like, actually pulling that up and playing that on stream sometimes, it's sort of like, oh, so people are playing a board game. It's Tabletop Sim, you know?
Yep.
I'm gonna let go of your head. You're gonna fall. Your head's gonna fall down. You know that? Because you're hanging off the side of this bed here. Yep, up. Your head's upside down. There you go. I'm away from you now. Don't look adorable. That's not gonna get you anything. How'd Saturday go for you, Worm?
So today was okay. Yeah, we're basically just traveling through the Underdark. We spent 45 minutes to decide. Most people spent 45 minutes deciding what they wanted to bring along, and then we finally went on the adventure. Ran into a giant slug and some Umber Hulks. Not together at different times.
Wow. Still a classic Umber Hulks, always.
Yep. Because we're in the Underdark. We're traveling to a city in the Underdark to figure out what the heck is happening to, or why there's a person there whose name is a thing that tried to do stuff to dwarves and tried to get their gold.
I'm like taking a step back and like, isn't this a Spelljammer game and you're in the Underdark?
Yeah.
It's the space Underdark.
So we ended up on a planet because
I take it you're doing something on the planet. It's important. You eventually will return to like your spaceship in the future.
We are in the system because at the request of like the Elven Navy.
Mm-hmm.
But they said we're not needed yet. But here, take this thing so we can call you basically a sending stone. And then it's like, okay, cool, we'll be on the planet because one of our party members' family lives there. And the party member's family was all like, hey, we're business people, and these dwarves that we've been doing business with keep getting robbed, and we're getting gypped. So do you want to help there?
Can you help us on our way?
And that's how we got wrapped up in all this.
Kind of a little drug into the entire thing. I can see that there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, like it's not that I don't see like a planetary thing, but I feel like the amount of times I've asked you questions, like I've heard about it. You've been on the planet for quite a while. It feels like maybe it's just
I mean, we haven't played in about a month, so.
Okay, I can see that being like kind of like a delay to everything then too. Okay.
Yeah. Not to mention, this is like phase 2. Our whole thing was first like, okay, the trains were getting robbed, and so we figured that out. But then that led us to another thing that might be like a rival city might be having like wanting to do stuff in the Underdark, and so it's like we'll go and check it out for them.
Got some rivals. Gonna deal with them. Sounds good. All right.
I've kind of learned that with Ald, he kind of in like. So this is probably the second arc I've been in. It seems like he likes to do one decent arc and then like or one side arc and then like the main arc. if that makes sense.
Okay.
In like a single big arc. So
Gotcha.
I feel like this is the side arc that doesn't have a lot to do with the overall plot, but is still a plot.
I can see what you're kind of saying there. It's kind of like there
like
are. Oh, sorry. There is a major kind of plot going on that you're kind of like hitting at, but you have like kind of little side things to kind of cut in between them a little bit as a storytelling.
And that's where we are, and that's why it's going to take a while, because like we did this in the last area where it's all like our side we wanted to clear out like an evil planet of its evilness was the main plot, but along the way we ended up on the planet, and it's like and I do like how the side plots tend to relate to the characters, whereas the main plot is kind of the overall plot. Like this was one of the families of another person, and then we've got the one of the families of Solus, and then we've got in the last side plot was Finn's druid circle that he that he grew up in.
Okay.
So
yeah,
so it's all like it.
I can see how you can have some interesting stories with that then.
Yeah, so the side plots tend to be related to like the characters, whereas the main plot is kind of the overall plot.
Okay. Cool. Anything else anybody have this week then, or is that where we leave off? I think that's kind of
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, we had them today. We had a good bits of conversation there. We, got some venting in. We dove into some interesting topics. I think it was a very good week. And we'll push the deeper discussion topic I had this week for next week, where we'll get into that one. So hey, everybody else, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today and liked diving into it. I'm going to throw it to my two co-hosts here to say thank you once again for joining me, Worm and Momo. Momo, you don't normally have anything to shout out. Do you have anything this week?
No.
Then, of course, I turn it to Worm, who normally has something to shout out. So I will throw it to you.
Yeah, I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter and Blue Sky, and DiamondWyrm9234 on YouTube. Next stream should be tomorrow. I'm actually going to try a new game. Kind of new. I mean, it's an old game, but it's a game I've wanted to play, and I found it in my Steam library. I'm like, I should play this.
I know that feeling of, like, sometimes you see something, you're like, I really should try this and play this, or at least that, too.
Well, I've also tried it before, but I didn't, like, on my own, and then I was like, I'll make this on my own game. But then I, like, didn't get very far into it, but then I got, like, somewhat into it. Not far enough at all, and it was a while ago, so I don't remember much of it.
Gotcha.
It's Outer Wilds, by the way, is what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's a good one. From what I've heard.
Yeah, it's that space one. That's like that kind of weird space one. I like it. I mean, I remember I like it's very much there's a mystery, and I have no idea. Like I know very little about it from what I remember from the first time I played it. Like, basically, a comet is on a crash course to the sun, but you thankfully your character runs into like an artifact which gives him the ability to revive, and so he keeps reviving back in time at the same point before the comet crashes into the star, blowing it up. And the whole idea is that you are trying to stop this.
Gotcha. That's an interesting kind of idea. All right. Cool.
But there's not like combat as far as I'm aware, as much as it's just like a mixture of parkour, exploration, and discovery, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everybody. This is my channel here. I hope you've enjoyed stopping by. Make sure to join us, of course, next week. Same time. I shall at least be here, and hopefully one or both of my co-hosts will be here to join us for more. That'll be Saturday 6. I can shout out for major things coming on. Fall of Evansville, Wednesdays at 8. Join that one. We talked about it. It's a good one to join. I'll be on Twitch at various times during the week. Check out my tabletop-related stuff. Check out my social media. That's linked. It's a great way of seeing what's going on in my schedule. And honestly, I hope everybody joins next week. I've got some tabletop videos I'll be recording. Hopefully, I'll be on the back end of finally finishing up Silk Song, and then we'll figure out what's next to play. I've got a kind of list of things. I honestly am hoping to get into some like smaller stuff. As much as I've liked, this last year has been dominated by Silk Song and Elden Ring. They're very long games. And I just don't
Yeah,
tend to
that's
have
why-
like big streams to sit down and do them. And I think that's my
That's
big
why
thing.
I'm breaking up Silksong. I'm doing 2 streams of Silksong and then 1 stream of
Yeah.
another game, and then I'm now adding this one in. So it'll be one. So it'll be my link will be two Silksong, 1 Outer Wilds now, and then Tactical Breach Wizards, which is getting close to being done.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can get some of the stuff finished on my end, you know, and clean up some of my schedule then. And maybe like, you know, again, that's my goal this year. Have a little bit cleaner of a schedule, a little bit more solid of a schedule. Hopefully, this will be the year that I can do that. Thumbs up. Anyway, everybody, yeah. Have a great rest of your weekend. Check out people if you can, and hopefully see you next week for more of this. So until then, farewell.